Okay, welcome to the second meeting of the community of FreeTAK server. And if you have missed the first one, we should have already this one and the first one on your YouTube channel. So today is the 18th of August 2024, and we have a special guest, the man, the myth, the legend, AJ, aka TAK is the way, and he's going to enlighten us on everything TAK related. Now, we assume that we already know what TAK is, so AJ, please don't give us the basic, give us the good stuff that you know. Let's start with some introduction. AJ, who you are for the few that don't know yet what you do and what is your role in the TAK community, very quick.
Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Andreas Johansson. Most folks know me as AJ. I'm a fire captain paramedic in Southern California for the Corona Fire Department. Been playing around with TAK since 2018. We deployed it in our agency in 2019. I'm a big TAK proponent, evangelist in the community, trying to kind of spread the word and show how powerful it is for all sorts of communications from local community CERT teams all the way up to, law enforcement, emergency management, fire department official means.
Perfect. Now, today we are going to, discuss with you a lot of things. I think you have a presentation, but for the one that are, listening to the record, please stay to the end because we have some very important announcement regarding the FreeTAK server project that you want to listen to because it's going to be very important. So, but let's start with you and what you do. So you have a beautiful presentation you want to start sharing.
Yeah, I'll start sharing a capabilities briefing, but like things that I'm looking forward to, some things that are coming down the pipe with TAK. I'll start with TAK as shared consciousness. You guys all know that, but I kind of stole that from Stan McChrystal and his book Team of Teams. That he keeps mentioning shared consciousness, and when I heard that resonates with me a lot. So these are the things that are coming down the pipe. That some of this stuff you may be aware of, but this is some of the things that are really exciting to me that are coming. First off is better maps. Vector tiles, finally. These are updates that came at TAK Offsite last month. So vector data, getting the metadata within the map, style sheets, layer ordering and labeling, all this stuff will also improve routing. So being able to search the extent for features that are actually in the map. So we've lived on raster for a long time, and we know that the pains. The imagery is nice, but you don't get any of the metadata with it. So super excited about this project coming out of the Army. So all this stuff coming in ATAK 5.2. And then the releasable base map tiles. These are in 5.2 right now. You do have a couple of them, but again, these are just going to keep, making our jobs as either responders or the community even better to be able to start searching for places and having much better understanding of what's going on around us. What's also nice too about the vector tiles is that we can drop that on top of imagery. So I'm really excited about hopefully some better some traffic data, things that we do now, like through the weather plugin and really kind of backdoor some data. Now we're actually really having a platform to do some of that stuff on. So better
is this capability going to be available for civilians, AJ?
Yes. Yep. Yep. There's actually 2 RBTs in 5.2 right now that are already released. So, yep, there's a day, I think, and a night. But yes, all this stuff will be, as you can see, all RBT maps are unclassified with no caveats for releasability. So this stuff is coming. So, yep, this will all be available. Another thing that I wanted to kind of put on people's radar, if you're not familiar with Colorado's Center of Excellence, they're deploying this statewide tax server. So the idea is that you put software out there for, I call it the willing, it's the state's paid for it. Any local government that wants to deploy on their system has TAK available. But what I really think, for this community to look at is the GitHub repo of all their solutions. So they have all this available for anybody to deploy. It could be, your local effort, could be a statewide effort, whatever, but all this stuff's available. So they've got some JSON stuff, Node-RED, Cloud TAK is one thing that's pretty interesting. So this is ETL services. So taking GIS data from disparate systems and then loading them into the TAK server for you to be able to style and being able to visualize. So they call it Cloud TAK, but this is a screenshot of their web viewer. But it is really, I think one of the pain points in ATAK has always been, well, I have this data, a lot of in government have stuff in these GIS databases. How do I get it over into my TAK environment and to be able to be used? And so they've really paved the way. And again, they're making this available for free for anybody to deploy. So you can grab their code, put in your own environment, and run with it. So there's plenty of open source data that's out there in GIS format. It could be your own environment. So really, really unique and much needed solution. And I just love that they've put it out there for anybody to deploy. So they call it Cloud TAK. Ditto on the comm side, peer-to-peer. So think of multicasts, what we're all used to, just hopping on, a LAN and auto discovery of devices. But this is using both either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth and having peer-to-peer connectivity, and then pushing that down. So you can have edge node and then reaching all the way back to a server and passing data. It is really, really unique. They kind of cut their teeth in the airline industry. So kind of air gap solutions on airplanes. You're doing point of sale stuff. Someone's buying a meal on an aircraft. And this is really where this started. And now they bring in this to TAK. So something really, I think this will also come to everybody eventually.
Are you sure about that? Because I read or I listened to their presentation. They have a YouTube presentation and sound to be a very commercial offering, only for government and military, not available to everybody.
I think it's going to come for anybody to deploy. I think this may be at the beginning, and I think like a lot of things that happen in TAK, that's where they start. But it sounds like they want this to be able to people to deploy. So it may not be right away, but and even if it starts, a commercial thing, I think you're gonna be able to maybe deploy this at a very low cost as well. I've been testing it at offsite. We pushed ADSB server, a peer right over, and there was very little delay, like 3 seconds of taking a lot of COT data off our ADSB server and pushing it over the peer-to-peer network. It worked very well. So something just to keep track of, and when this becomes available for the masses, to really start diving into it.
This is interesting because we are going today to announce something that is going to be a open source, community-driven thing that is very similar to what they plan here.
Yeah, and my take on all this, iron sharpens iron. The more, we take, I just kind of started the FTS, like looking at some of what was done, right? It's a lot of efficiency out of the legacy TAK server, and and deploying something a little slimmer, a little cleaner. Yeah, as we all know, as programs developed, you hold on to that a lot of some old stuff that's tying stuff together, and many times in software development, at some point someone starts a new path, right? And we hold on to our old system. We start the new platform and eventually cut over and get rid of a lot of, things get old and outdated and long the tooth. So yeah, be curious to see what you're working on and where this stuff collides, and maybe something spins out of something a little bit better. Cesium, this is another kind of exciting thing to come. Taking the Open Geospatial Consortium tiles and or the 3D files and converting them to 3D tiles you can host in the cloud or locally. Of course, Cesium is a pay to play if you want to host it in their environment, and then using the Cesium plugin for rendering. So there's just a screenshot of 3D tiles out in Chicago, and you could see a couple ATAK users there in that building. And then this is zooming out a little bit and lowering the transparency on the 3D tiles, and then having an indoor 3D model rendering as well. One thing always to take into consideration, and one things we do struggle with TAK is, Z-axis, and that just goes for phones in general, is that Z-axis, I know that the rendering is geospatially correct, but, where are we at? You can see some are a little bit higher than others. Most of them probably aren't on the right floor. So that's kind of the holy grail too, that hopefully gets solved in the near future with better location. But this is something that's pretty exciting to me for those urban environments. The WASP plugin is a project, and WASP is available right now out on the Play Store. So a few years ago, an offsite met with the folks at Draper about some of the ideas we had about expanding missions. Like, we really liked how WASP was a consolidated tool where it brought in all the tools you need for that specific mission for wide area search. And the idea was that, could we build expanded missions? Could I have one for a swiftwater rescue? Could I have one for a wildfire? Could I have just a drop-down menu? Could I go to a search and rescue mode? And they would bring all the tools in and all the symbology that was useful for that specific mission. Increase our icon sets, bring in line stylings. And so I went out to Boston last year to Draper Labs. I spent 2 days there with NGB, and we threw a bunch of stuff at the wall. And I kept waiting for them to say, "All right, AJ, it's time to sit down. It's enough." And they listened to everything I had. So that's going to come out in November. So that's really, really exciting to me to see where this goes, the feedback we get, and I'm sure that we've got plenty of things we're going to miss, right? And some of this stuff is we're kind of building the plane as we fly it. One of the mission sets is be like active shooter. That's not something that really anybody has symbology for. So we're coming up with some symbol sets for this mission versus wildfire, which has, at least in the US, has a set symbology set that comes from the National Wildfire Coordinating Group. Where there's no national standard for active shooter. So, this is just an unfortunate reality that we're having to come up with this stuff. But again, really excited about what's
that active shooter is part of the military standard 2525. So there is a symbol for active shooter.
Yeah,
it's more,
and I'm sure
but
we could
as
pull
far
some
as I
stuff.
remember, there is one.
Yeah, we could pull some stuff out of the military icon set. I think this is one of those, and it's like I said, unfortunate reality that I'm hoping this will give some more exposure to. Like, what is the best way? If you went to any local law enforcement, they would say, "I don't know." I don't know what is the right icon to mark a barricaded suspect? What is for a you know, whatever it is, a evidence marker, things like that. So really excited to see what comes out of this. You know, we started using WASP locally to manage we did a bunch of drills of, you know, what would be the best way to, you know, to categorize where things are occurring for an active shooter. So we started using, you know, the structure triage. You know, this is, you know, is it been destroyed? Is it partially destroyed? And started marking up how many victims. And a lot of that was to help drive. So then incident commander isn't having to say, like, with a piece of paper, you know, marking down how many victims. We could just drop a marker and then add the victims, then have a tally. Part of that discussion started talking about dashboard or scoreboard style. If you're used to Esri dashboards, driving that as well. So the incident commander may not be as focused on the map, but may want that dashboard view to understand how many victims are we up to. And that downstream effect is how many ambulances and additional resources do I need to order to support transport and treatment of all those people. So that was also something that's going to be coming out of that. WASP already sort of does it. You can draw a bounding box and have it tally things for you, but it's in this kind of categorization, and it doesn't do like aggregate the data and give you spit out like, hey, you've had 10 victims, 2 deceased. And that's really what we're kind of going after. So again, this will be the first version of it. It comes out expanded version in November. I'm excited to get the feedback and see where we go from there. And that's pretty much it as far as stuff coming down the pipe that I'm excited about. I don't know everything in TAC. You know, of course, I'm a civilian, much like you guys are. I am a responder, so I have a little bit elevated, but I'm at like the lowest tier in the non-public sphere. So any questions?
The question is what we have already discussed it multiple times. So TAC comes with this variety of plugins that, you know, in real time are very difficult to, you know, deploy and manage. Really are 2 questions. Number 1, you know, best practices on managing plugins, and number 2, that is even more important, for a civilian, let's say, prepared citizen in terms of, you know, natural situation that can happen, which roles and which plugins you will, you know, envision. Not for, you know, professionals, but we are here mostly civilian people. So which fundamental role you see in TAC, and which plugins, in your opinion, are relevant, and how can we deploy, you know, a, you know, infrastructure for people in the best possible way?
Yeah, I'll stop sharing my screen and you guys can see my face. You know, I think, you know, on the plugin side, and this is also a server feature, right, is data sync. I think it is a very powerful tool that, you know, keeps, especially as people join, you know, you have an event, you know, you have bang, and then you have got right at bang, and you start collecting data. And how do you get everybody synced back up? And of course, there are some store and forward features that you could do in TAC server, but I think data sync and really compartmentalizing those, because you could have people collecting different sorts of data, and how do you keep those? I mean, no one likes to use the word silo, but some things do need to be categorized and separated. So is this planning for the next operational cycle? Is this, you know, or is this as data that we want, you know, that needs to be real time shared right now? So the data sync is one of those.
Are you using XCheck in conjunction with data sync?
You know, I have never played with XCheck. So one of the things I see for XCheck, and one I'd like to play with, and I did mention this to the NGB and WASP, is, well, you know, when we get a large earthquake, and having kind of these canned, like XCheck executable things that I need to, you know, this is your first in district. You need to go check on these, you know, these targets because they are, you know, have the highest propensity for harm. Either that's a senior apartment complex, convalescent homes, schools, could be areas that have high quantities of hazardous materials. And so to give, whoever that responder is, or if that's a community member, to say, you are on this, this is your mission set, and this is what you need to go do. And I do see a lot of value with XCheck for that. So you could just pull up, hey, I'm responsible for this area, and this is what I'm supposed to go do. And then, of course, everybody can monitor that as you go through and start, completing these tasks. So I see a lot of value with XCheck. I just haven't really deployed it yet, honestly.
Interesting. What about, the disruptor that is drones and, the US plugin?
Yep.
What is the role of the US plugin in Europe? And by the way, is a plugin that you see everybody need to waive or only certain category of people?
I don't think UAS tool needs to be for everybody. Anybody can play the video. I think the AVO plugin definitely can help because it gives you that augmented reality view from just a regular viewer. So you can start playing, the geospatial video and then start having, that augmented reality view in the video. Not absolutely necessary. Of course, if you load the UAS tool, you can do a lot more. You can do some remote tasking and things like that. Of course, your UAS operator has to be okay with that. But I think the UAS tool is, or just UAS in general, is a force multiplier for gathering intelligence and. To me, also keeping down our radio traffic. That's another thing TAC does, right? If you don't have to keep asking, well, where is that? Where is that? That's the beauty of I see a lot of UAS solutions out there. I got a call. There's a lot of UAS solutions out there where they share video, but my question always is, if you have to ask where that is, you're probably missing one of the major contextual pieces about the video. Sure, I might see fire activity on a wildland fire, or I might see a riot, or I might see a burglary happening, or I might whatever it is, or the person floating down the river. Well, the next question you're most naturally going to have is, where is that occurring? Now, if you have the address in the video frame, great. Or it's some landmark that makes it very evident to see where this is occurring. But if you don't, the next question out of someone's mouth is going to be, where is that? And that's where obviously TAC comes in with the OAS tool. You know exactly where that's occurring, which can help you get ahead of the curve, especially with someone floating down a river. Where do I need to deploy my resources downstream? Or where do I need to put containment on whatever event, or what area do we need to avoid? This is a hazardous materials. So I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here. You guys don't understand that, but on the UAS side, I said I see a lot of solutions out there that say we share video, but without geospatial context. And to me,
another topic that is very important for this community, I don't know how relevant it is for you, is off-grid capability. By the way, T-Rex Lab just came out with a comparison video between Meshastic, Virtud, and Goten X that is not even available for civilians. Are you using any of those tools for off-grid, or is not relevant in your case? Like if you're in California, middle of nowhere, you still assume that you always have connectivity?
Yep. So we are Beartooth customers at our agency.
Okay.
The reason, so Beartooth or Goten is awesome. 5-watt radio, UHF, VHF, but it is required. You could use GMRS if you wanted to, but you actually need quite a few frequencies to use, to have a lot of nodes on it. And so 5 watts is awesome range. I just don't have the FCC licenses for my size agency to be able to do that. So that was kind of our reason not to deploy it. But if you're a federal or a state agency, and I'm in the LA basin as well, so you can imagine, from LA to San Diego, good luck trying to go get a bunch of spectrum. It's just super, super congested. But if you're a federal entity or a state entity, or maybe a county that can get a hold of a lot of or maybe you have existing frequencies you can leverage, it's a great solution. But that doesn't mean you can, if maybe you're the state or the feds, you could take it anywhere. But just because you have it locally doesn't mean you can go use those frequencies anywhere you want. I think that's one of the things that people need to realize about some of these solutions is you just don't go buy, GoTenna and just jam a bunch of frequencies in it and then go operate anywhere you want. There is, if you're using licensed spectrum. So something to keep in mind. So we went with Beartooth because it is using the 900 ISM. It is a lower wattage. It's a 1 watt radio. But because we're using 900 ISM, I can use it anywhere. And honestly, it's part of the PACE plan, right? So if I have LTE, I don't need to pull that out. And, I've heard of the argument, well, isn't 900 ISM noisy? Well, maybe it is noisy in the middle of an urban environment, but I think a lot of, people, our old VTech cordless phones that those are kind of going away. No one has a landline anymore. Everyone's using their own, LTE or 5G signal on their cell phone. So where we need to operate, where we've lost our LTE, there's nobody out there. So 900 ISM does work well. Yes, it's low wattage. So I'm not getting, great, I'm not getting a mile out of it. Another thing too is to think about terrain, vegetation, the science does matter. I hear that a lot. Hey, we shot, 50 miles off this radio or whatever. Okay, that was ridge to ridge, nothing in the way. And then you get on the ground and then you've got, some topography, some thick vegetation, those things matter. So getting nodes up in the air. There's a great video on the Fresnel zone that I like to share. Some Australian guy did. It is great because it really, you can't escape the laws of physics, on these sort of things. So I think, the comm side, the PACE plan for network connectivity is huge. I'm excited about Cell from Space. We just sent one of our guys, Mike Lecklider from our organization, to go help the U.S. Forest Service using a stratospheric balloon. He just got back yesterday. So he was up in Idaho with the federal government testing out some solutions with TAC over, private LTE and FirstNet, on a balloon. So, and
Have you tried to put one of those radio on a drone to extend the range?
Yes. Yep. We've done some testing with both. If you've watched one of the videos, we did some stuff with man-made radios with Doodle Labs. So also using 900 ISM on their radios. We've attached a Beartooth radio to a drone. Yes, absolutely, extends the range. So anytime you can get up, right, it's going to definitely help. But another thing we liked about the Beartooth, it is very easy to set up. I mean, we call it firefighter proof, but you literally turn it on, it scans the Bluetooth, it says, would you like to connect to this radio? And boom. So some of the exciting things I see about that is maybe some ditto integration and then data sync, being able to run data sync over those units as well. And they also offer kind of a TAC server to, to forward over LTE or whatever network back, for wide area, from a command center or anybody else that's connected. So sort of like Beartooth does, GoTenna does. So
I think we have a question. Andrea, you wanted to ask something?
Yeah, I do have a question. Yeah, a long time listener, first time caller, I guess. So I am actually curious about this stratospheric balloon. So actually, I live in DC, very similar situation, except instead of being a federal agency or being a state agency, it doesn't matter because all the federal agencies have already taken the spectrum that they want. There's none left. ISM bands are lovely for us, but so I've been hobbying around with little, trying to see what the FAA says. You can have a balloon, because in additional complication, we cannot have any drones. because they will shoot them down or send you the biggest fine you've ever seen. So stuff like this stratospheric balloon, I would love to hear about. If you have a company name that you can share, something like that,
Let me,
or
I know,
any more details on that.
I know, are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn.
I said, if you look up Michael Lecklider, I believe he made it, and I'm getting on Slack right now, our little Slack group. But he, I believe, reposted I think it was a company that had the balloon made a post and reposted. But I was not involved with it. But let me see if I can find it real quick on Slack and
Could you repeat that last name for me?
Lecklider, Lecklitter. And
Found.
yep, hit him up directly on LinkedIn. He'll be able to share the company's name. And they learned a lot. You know, there's nothing, of course, in a laboratory, and you have, you know, versus going out and getting up in there and really get some real time tests. I learned a ton with it. And again, I'm excited. I was camping last week. I went on a back in the Sierra Nevada, off like way back in the back country, and I'm laying there at night watching 25 starlinks in a line go across the sky. And I am excited also about this, this cell from space that is soon to come, and what that might change for connectivity for us down the line, because that'll be, of course, available to everybody. Of course, it's not free, but but
No,
again,
definitely not free. And as of right now, from what I can tell, the link budget's going to be pretty limited. But yes, I think some cool 5G from space is coming soon. I wish I could say a little bit more on that, but I think what I can say is that I think there's going to be more than just one or two providers coming soon, I think.
yeah, it
I
sounds
can
like
say something because I'm directly involved into that. I cannot say everything, but I can tell you to watch a company called Telesat because they will bring pretty soon something in space. So we are going to see more that only one company monopolizing this kind of service. But I think, like we discussed about the band in DC, so space, at least near space, is a limited resource. I wonder what will happen with all those satellites, in space, because pretty soon we're going to reach a limit. So that is a new situation. We'll see what happens.
yeah, because
Yeah, and that
you've got AST going in there, you've got Link already up, and then you've got, of course, Starlink. So it'll be interesting to see, how they all work together in that LEO space to bring network connectivity again, right? There is only so much space. It seems like a lot of space, but there is only so much space. So we're going to run out of a space. Love it.
Okay, any other question to our honored guest here?
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
I know that voice.
Hey, Jay. Hey, as long as I've had my tax server up and going, every time I go to another agency, they come up with some new idea. And the recent ones that I've been asked is there a way to interface emergency hardware in a car? So if you turn on your emergency lights, that you get some kind of notification, or you could flash the cot of the unit that's actually in emergency traffic. Have you seen anything like that yet? Hardware interfacing?
Oh, so you again, so you go in code 3 to an incident, and that would change. Yeah. No, but that's probably not beyond a night's worth of work. So to probably figure it out. I mean, some sort of trigger to make that happen, and you just got to associate, right, the end user with that hardware.
Yeah, some kind of Bluetooth interface to the car. Somebody flips on their lights, and it would, send a beacon message to your EUD that you've got in your car already, and then say, hey, with that, it means you got it paired to your car at some point. Or, the second one that I get asked a lot is, can I get notifications when somebody's going so fast? So I get a cot, that's going over 70 miles an hour, so that they can say, hey, something obviously is going on. I got a guy going that fast. So there's a lot of these little, the more data you get, the more ideas people get. It's like, oh, I could really use this type thing.
But you see, this is something that, in my opinion, and just to be clear, my real job in life is not to create software for campers and LARPers, but I do, design big systems. And one very weird thing about TAK is how much we put in the clients, okay? But nowadays, this is stuff that you want to process on the server, because you're completely right. We can get a huge amount of data, like this guy is driving too fast, okay? Or this guy is not moving completely. Maybe he's stationary because has good reason, but maybe he need help. But to process all those data more and more, we will need to have server-side capabilities. Because on the client, even if our phones are so powerful nowadays, we have limits of what we can do. So from one side, we have this paradigm of, okay, we want to have everything disconnected, and that was originally created by the military. But in the civilian space, putting everything on the client, including all those plugins that we are, using, is a unique aspect of TAK that I wonder when we'll reach, its limit.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Corvo, because one of the conversations I had with somebody was they were wanting to use drone detection technology around the jail, but you need to have it to be another notification service other than TAK. So you get like a text message, hey, a drone has got within half a mile of your jail, whatever sensor you have. And you need to do that at the server level, not at an end user device level at the facility. That can then push out notifications. And so you bring up a good point is,
Right.
How do you get that data to process? And when some event occurs, that it sends notifications out to people. I see that being a big part of where TAK goes is, once you start putting all this data in somewhere, it's like, hey, people need to be notified at different levels about things.
I completely agree with you. And one of, the creed of FTS is this, that a TAK server is not a broker of information, but need to understand the information and to send only the relevant information to the relevant people. That include things like security, but include also the fact we are being joined here by Nick, and Nick is one of the most prolific creators of plugins, and has created a plugin that is called Not in My Backyard, that more or less, is in this sense, because it will hide all the information that is outside of your range of influence. But on the other side, the range of influence depends on multiple factors. Like if I am walking is probably 10 meters, but if I am on an airplane, can be, thousands of miles, So all those calculations based on all those data, in my opinion, make no big sense to try to calculate all of that on clients. Need to be done on the server. The server need to be able to collect data, aggregate all those data, and send to the proper person so that you can focus on your job and not be overwhelmed with data. And I will ask AJ here if that is also your experience, that you get, information that is not relevant for you.
Yeah, one of the guys I've worked with, he used to work at PAR, but Joe Austin, he owns a company called Nine Hill Technologies now, and that is exactly more from we did it kind of in a Z order effect, but same thing, right? From at this zoom level, I don't need to see 2,000 cameras covering, the Western United States, right? When I get to a certain zoom level, and you see this in GIS, Esri, right, or QGIS, right? And that's something that TAK struggles with, correct? Is that it doesn't have a native and I know the KML region tags now work, but for COT, right, you don't have a good way to say, hey, at this zoom level, I want to start seeing data, right? Can you imagine having a jurisdiction and showing every fire hydrant, when you zoom down, and now the whole map is spanned, right? So that same thing, and I see that. So he started building a plugin called Datastream, which does solve that, where you bring in all the data and then it's only visualized when you get to a certain zoom level. He's also built in there some intelligence that, the alert wildfire cameras from a zoomed out perspective, if I see the entire state of California, the only cameras it shows are the cameras that the AI is saying they see fire in and they turn red. And then as you zoom in, now if I just want to check on another camera, well, now at whatever zoom level. But yeah, that same sort of idea, I agree. I think one of the plugins that I think has some value to be expanded is the ADSB Direct. That same sort of show me COT within this distance of me. So sort of but it's I believe it's all being processed on the client side. So I like what you're saying on the server side to say, I tell the server what data is relevant to me, let the server dish out that information. I think that is absolutely important, and I'd love to see that plug, and I'd love to see that kind of expand. I'm trying to get vehicle locations for all of CAL FIRE, so we're talking, thousands of vehicles. Well, I don't need to see them all the time, and I might only need to see vehicles within 100 miles of me. I don't need to see. I'm down in Riverside. I don't need to see the ones along the Oregon border. Until I'm up at the Oregon border on a fire, then yes, these vehicles are relevant. And so the way we could do it now is to say, well, all the vehicles that are tagged that they're from that unit, I can turn off. But if those units are down in San Diego, say, because San Diego is having a big fire, well, because I turn those units off, now I don't see them. I would rather do a regional approach, a polygon, if you will, either on the TAC server side or what is doing now the ADSB Direct. I think it's done on the client side, though, is just show me relevant COT within this my sphere of what makes
Right.
what makes sense. And that also doesn't
So we have sorry to interrupt. We have the last 15 minutes. We want to stay within the hour. I will leave the time to introduce some of the news of our projects, or to give also the ability to comment. I'm going to try to share my screen. So you let me know if you see the right thing. Do you? No, probably not. Okay. What about now?
No.
I see if I click, I saw MegaTAK or something.
Yeah. So let me try again to share entire screen. Share. You need to click on
Click watch stream.
the icon.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Okay. So number one, MegaTAK. This is something that I've been preaching since almost 4 years, and that is the following. In our community, or that in the professional community, we like to play with technology and installing 25 plugins and so on, but very, very little, real, usage. So what we want to do as a community is to organize a federated exercise, and that means everybody can participate on his local, community, and is designed to test all the capability that we have available. Clearly, we are especially interested in FTS capabilities and related, but we want also to test radios, off-grid capabilities, video capabilities, drones, whatever is legal, and whenever a situation you can. So as you can see, the exercise is going to be 10 days. That don't mean that we expect anybody to leave everything, behind and play for 10 days the exercise. But in 10 days, every single day, we are going to, output a new feed, and you can, react to, the events in the way that you decide to, and then share with, the rest of the community what is your finding, what is that is working, what is that is not working, and on and on and on. Okay, so the topic exactly of the exercise is maybe you can, figure out from the image, but it's not going to be disclosed. So that is like we will have a almost realistic situation in which we output every day in those 10 days some new feed, you get the news and you react to the news and you try to do certain things during the exercise. So that is the first thing, and it's going to be between September the 29th and October the 12th. So let's go around the table if there are any questions regarding this. And we will welcome also the professional community to participate, but it's up to you guys.
And we're all on an FTS instance. Is that the plan? That we have a shared.
You
So-
are not necessarily, forced to do that, but clearly we are more interested in testing FTS. But,
Yeah.
If you have another tax server, I say, okay, you are wrong.
No, we
I will
can.
not talk.
I was going to say this will go over during CivTAC 24, the first 3 days of it.
Okay.
So we could, if you have a QR code, we could put it up, and people could join, and we could talk a little bit about this MegaTAK event, and
That would be awesome.
and to
Absolutely.
get, we could have some folks there. So for you, those of you who aren't aware, there Ken Rabin's putting together CivTAC 24, and it's October 1st through 3rd.
Right. Now, to organize that, we will need, some help. So everybody that is, watching the video, you can, join the Discord and contact me if you want to participate. In general, it's okay. You don't need to notify anybody, but if you want to participate in the organization, let me know. We have a complete script that describes, everything, and we will need help. And I see, Nick, is that you showing your face finally?
Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay. I mean, so if you're talking about like federated stuff, are you going to integrate FTS with other tax servers? Like, what do you mean by federated?
Federated, initially I was with Federation working. Frankly, right now our Federation capability is broken.
That's how, yeah, it sounds
Big-
hard.
Right, but also because tax server and I am on record literally here again, they changed the API. So because of that, it's broken, and to understand that, we will need to again like back engineering what is the new API because it's not public. So in this way, we don't have a working federation. But that brings me to the next topic. So if you don't have any other question in regard to MegaTAK. Okay, so let's go to the next one because that is very important. In my opinion, it's a game changer. Am I still sharing here?
Yep. Yeah, I still see your slides.
Okay. So Reticulum. The first community stream that we did, we agreed that one of the most important feature that a lot of users want to have is off-grid capability. And the topic of Meshastic is all over the places. As I said previously, TRX Lab is coming out with a comparison video, and they rightly say that like Berthoud costs at least $1,200 US dollars. Canadian dollar will be even more, and a Meshastic device costs $100. For most people, Meshastic is a given. And we started to, investigate that. On the same time, we have another team member that was saying, hey, what we really need is long range capability. Meshastic is not solving that. Meshastic is only providing, short range capability? What about we communicate TAC information over HF, so super long range, like 100 miles? Now, and we discovered this technology that is really impressive because basically is not only solving multiple problems, but in a super elegant way. So we don't have time to see all the characteristics of Reticulum, but I created very quick this slide. Number one, Reticulum allow you to create a decentralized mesh using multiple type of communication. You see here in my quick diagram, probably it's too small to see, but we have, a single, all those FTS are integrated and those are all clients. On the top, we have those two clients that are Reticulum clients that can communicate now with FTS. But then all the FTS communicate by using very different transportation, such as LoRa, HF, and IP, where Reticulum is not even using regular IP communication, but basically has reinvented the protocol, and that is this transport agnostic, factor. Another thing that we wanted to implement since ever is the so-called flock of parrot, that, if you remember, is a alternative and, in my opinion, better way to, go to a place like, think about a J job is, firefighting, and he go to a, big fire in Oregon, and he want to go with his own TAC server, but then federate his TAC server super quick with the rest. So the flock of parrot is a concept to solve that, and Reticulum, we believe that is, a platform that will allow this. And so because of all those factors, we believe that Reticulum is the way to go. And we plan ideally to have a initial implementation for the MegaTAK. Not sure if we can do that or not. Now, very quick in this regard, right now, just for the record, we are still in the middle of the transition between FTS 1 and FTS 2. We're planning to do that in a more professional fashion. We are doing in our own time. Everybody's working for free, and that means that require more time. So we do have certain issues right now in the software, and we have the chance of fixing the current version that is still based partially on the 1X architecture, or trying to port everything to the new version that is going to be much, much better. I will not go in technical detail, but I want to ask the community to have a little bit of patience here, because we have limited resources, and for us, fixing, the whole architecture will be like a waste of time. We want to do things right in this new flexible architecture. The mission of FTS remains to be the best TAC server, and we believe that between what we have planned for 2X and the Reticulum implementation is going to be way, way better than anything else on, that is available. So that is the end of my presentation. We still have 5 minutes for questions on Reticulum or the MegaTAK.
So Reticulum is a different protocol than Meshastic. That's
Reticulum is like, and I'm going to be a little bit technically, is like reinventing the internet. It's much more than simply Meshastic, okay? Reticulum communicate without the fundamental pieces of the internet, that is IP and then TCP on the top of IP. So it don't use AIP as its own IP system, as its own addressing system, works over different type of medium. So in this sense, it is really, really incredible, and it's all, has been created by a single person in the last 10 years. So it's really impressive piece of work.
Probably one of the most relevant high-level functions of Reticulum, or features, I guess. is that imagine all addresses are now static. So you don't really need to fumble with IPs being changed from platform to platform. If you go from here to there to the other place, everything is the same throughout a given network. And it's universally identifiable. So you can go from one place to another without having to worry about any addressing changes, which makes things a lot easier when it comes to configuration and going from X to Y.
Oh, that's
Or changing medium. For example, you connect to the network using, HF. That is long range, but it's very, little bandwidth. And then you move from California to Oregon, and you connect using IP. You don't need to do anything. You will still have the same. It's not called IP, but it's called, address or identity. And, you can transition to the other network without any further configuration.
that's
And
great.
this is why we really want to use it for the flock of parrots, because it's kind of set it and forget it, right? You can have the same address, not only like you said geographically, but over radio, over whatever medium you want to communicate over. Addressing is the same, and addressing is one of the biggest problems that we've had when it comes to providing users access or providing non-technical users the software solutions that we're trying to build. Is making sure that they know how to get that network communication working. And if we can have a solution where they can just connect to it and it works, that's kind of like the ideal, right? Start it and get it working.
And be clear, for now, we're not even saying that we're going to not support TAC anymore. We are adding a new capability on the top of that TAC. In the diagram, probably it was too small to see, but we still plan to have Meshastic implementation. But right now, because the whole Reticulum stack is written in Python and it's very clearly documented and can solve multiple use cases at once, we have decided to prioritize Reticulum over Meshastic implementation that is dedicated only to provide communication for LoRa. And by the way, another thing that Reticulum does is has a firmware for LoRa devices. So if you have a Meshastic LoRa device, you can simply flash that device and you have Reticulum enable network. So again, it's really cool. The more technical people that are listening to that really should spend some time on it, because the way in which certain things are redefined is really impressive.
I have never heard of Reticulum before. Is that really something you can flash to a Meshastic device? That's like news to me.
A Meshastic device, as you know, is a LoRa-capable device with a certain chip, okay? So you can take most of those chips and flash a Reticulum, firmware, and that will work.
That's cool. That's very cool.
And I think the most important, the coolest part is it auto resolves bridging. So like you could have, like a network resolution. So you have like your Meshastic device, which is then, connected to some computer. But then say you have another computer maybe across the country, and that's all communicating over TCP/IP, and you have like another cluster of Meshastics. It does resolution of addressing automatically. So like you can send message from X to Y without having to deal with any software. So like the mesh extends over different protocols, which is like the coolest part by far, because you don't need to deal with any of that. Like, which is something that Meshastic doesn't really support. Like you can do mesh over radio, but here you can do mesh over TCP/IP radio, LoRa, high frequency radio. Like any medium you can think of, you can have a mesh network that is encrypted by default.
Another thing that they support is a higher frequency. And by the way, that is, depending where you are, may or may not be legal, because they support also 2 megahertz over the 900, 2 gigahertz over the 900 megahertz that is typically from LoRa. that allow you a lot more bandwidth, whereas legal. Again, very interesting project. Nick, if I know you, tomorrow you're going to be hands-on with this, but at least
Yeah.
look at it. We want to, implement it because it's really worthy, and I believe that merit to have more attention.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I wanted to bring up was at one point I worked on something for doing JSA call in a ATAK plugin. So Sniper Bob on the Discord did HF stuff over ATAK as well, and like we implemented a JSA call plugin for ATAK. So that's like a bouncing radio RF off the ionosphere, like across the country kind of thing.
By the way, because you are the author, if I'm not mistaken, of the official Meshastic plugin, one criticism that this guy that is called Mark has on Meshastic is the abuse, and that is a quote, abuse of bandwidth by Meshastic, because it said that Meshastic is flooding the network with too much information. So all the nodes are trying to replicate everything. And one thing that he claimed that Reticulum solved better is each node has its own address resolution, a little bit like TCP IP, so it will address all the packets only once. And if there's no way to address, the message will host, the message for a while, looking for in future, trying to solve, the complete, route. So in this sense, he claimed that is much more efficient than Meshastic is. I can forward to you, the discussion
Oh yeah,
that they.
I have not implemented the Meshastic protocol, so I have no idea. I've just like glued this piece to this piece and like stuck what's in between them together to make them talk to each other. I don't write Meshastic. I don't know the protocol they're using. I just know how to glue stuff into ATAK.
Okay, anyone else before we close the session?